What's going on, everybody? GamerGeek here, and today we're doing another video covering Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, developed by Awaken Realms. Like I mentioned in my last video on this game, check that in the description box if you haven't already seen it. I'm covering the game as part of Awaken Realms' 960 Nights event, where a ton of influencers are simultaneously uploading or streaming content for the game at the same time. This event is meant to celebrate the latest massive update to the game that puts us just another step closer to the game's full release sometime next year. So if you haven't already watched my last video for this game, I strongly recommend you go watch it before finishing this video. I did a review on the game and covered all the major points regarding gameplay and storytelling in that video, as well as give some more information about the 960 event in general. But if you're all caught up or just don't care enough to go watch the other video, let's dive in and see what this new update has to offer. The first thing that stood out to me when playing the newest update for the game was the noticeable improvement in the graphics quality. Everything felt so much cleaner, with the lighting and textures all lending themselves to a much brighter and welcoming environment that made you eager to explore. I know in my last video I said the game's graphics were great, but this improvement with lighting and added details like rain leaving droplets on your camera elevated the game and gave it a much more polished feel than it did pre-update. There were several times where the light would catch just over the horizon and you get beautiful landscape shots that let you see the newly added landscapes in all its glory, something I felt was an intentional choice since the game's graphical overhaul was one of the first things Awaken Realms advertised for this update, so I'm sure they wanted some areas to put their work on display. The first newly added game mechanic is the inclusion of placeable campfires. The campfires can serve as protection if fueled by a specific item, allowing you to sleep safely through the night and are what you need to rest at in order to manage your character's stats whenever you level your character. I don't mind the campfire mechanic as a means of passing in-game time and the need to fuel it so that you aren't ambushed in your sleep, but I personally don't agree with the choice to make stat management tied to resting at a campfire. It felt unnecessary to have to place a campfire to rest at so I could level my character one stat point. I would much prefer they leave stat management to something I can manipulate in the menus, because having to place a campfire just to rest at it and take several extra seconds to increase my stats slows the gameplay down for what is otherwise a great game. But moving forward, another great inclusion to the game for me in this update was the emphasis on the nighttime and how it impacts the gameplay. During the night, enemies become stronger and in my opinion seem to act more aggressively towards the player. The world also shows off the in-game lore at night, with the sky having a mystical glow in it and even some weird-ass magical fog wall thing that I woke up next to once while I was exploring the update for the first time. Seriously, I have no idea what that was or if it was even supposed to be there, but it was really cool and had me theorizing on what it could mean in context with the lore. Overall, the nighttime setting in the game was fascinating, and one I enjoyed exploring in, despite it technically being the most dangerous time to be moving around, with all the spooky ghosts and demon people walking around in this game. Another new mechanic added to the game is the inclusion of unknown items that must be investigated at a campsite to discover what they are. It's a fun mechanic that really adds some mystery to the item drops, but I would prefer if the items dropped were from a specific item pool versus being a random item. The mechanic feels wasted when discovering an unknown item only to find out it's a bottle of booze. If they want to improve this mechanic, my suggestion would be to only have specific items like rings, relics, or amulets. Having basic items also be drops is a letdown, especially because it costs you valuable materials to discover the item, specifically an item called Ethereal Cobweb, which is the same resource you use to fuel your campfire to keep you protected at night while you sleep. While it's relatively easy to stock up on cobwebs, I personally don't like wasting resources in games. And yes, I know they can't make every discoverable item a jackpot, but it would have been nice for the items to at least make sense as to why they're initially unknown to the character. Not the biggest grievance I could have with the game, and I know that I might seem like I'm nitpicking here, but that's because there isn't much to complain about. I love this update, and I'm not the only one that loves it either. My wife managed to see the cows and pigs in the main area of the newly added locations and decided she loved the game too. Cows and pigs make everything better. But aside from the new mechanics and environments, the latest update also features a massive overhaul for the game in general. The character interactions are noticeably improved with more camera movement and slightly more detailed faces versus the stiff, sometimes motionless character interactions from before the update. The combat and movement also felt a bit more responsive, with the gameplay feeling faster paced with the tweaks that came with this update. Also, while this update doesn't feature any additional story content for the game, it needs to be said that the side quests and open world are more than enough to keep you busy. There were several side quests that I personally found myself hooked in for drama, with the most notable one for me being about a blind woman and her husband. I won't give too much away since I feel like the game and quests are more fun if you get to figure them out for yourself, but the quest was very well written and engaging. When a simple side quest allows you to explore a new dimension, I'd say that's a fun quest. But that's going to be it for my review of the new Tainted Grail update. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next one.